part of the Press Play Podcast Network.
We're back.
Season 3.
Episode 1.
After a long hiatus of just like chilling, took a vacation, had Thanksgiving. We were like, you know what? It's 2 weeks before Christmas. Let's start up again.
Let's start up again. This is the Ball Card Show, the sports podcast.
For the Sports Collector.
And as always, we're brought to you by the Press Play Podcast Network. We got so much to catch up on. So much has happened. So much has taken place.
Hey, and if you're new here, I'm Gary Lemaster.
Oh, I'm Jason Otero.
Yeah, there you go.
If you're new
How's it
here
going?
and you happen to stumble onto our podcast after taking a few weeks off,
Man, congratulations to you. You don't know the gold mine that you just landed on.
and God wanted you to listen to us because you'd have to go down quite the rabbit hole.
I don't know.
But here we are. Man, a few things have happened in the hobby.
And listen, guys, just so you're aware, don't text us and message us and blow up our Facebook page with, why are you talking about all this old stuff? We haven't talked to you guys for 6 weeks.
I also want to throw a teaser out there for those of you in the minority that are fans of Gary.
Wow.
I will be on the receiving end by the end of this
Of the nana
episode.
nana boo boo, stick your head and do.
Exactly. I am not excited, but I am going to be, I'm a gentleman, so I take my losses.
Well, and I'll go ahead and take my 2 hard losses right now so we get
don't
out of the way.
see.
Colts,
Hold on. You just qualified it as if there's only 2. You
Well,
tried to minimize.
I said my 2 hard losses. Colts, not as good as I thought they were, or as good as you thought they were. It hasn't been pretty.
What's your second one? Because I've got a third one.
Davis Mills.
Let's get to the third one.
What's your third one? Oh, you want to talk about Tua? I don't know. It's been interesting. The last few weeks.
You had no expectations of
None.
him doing
You're right.
anything like he's done this
I
year.
agree, and he has played way better.
And
than
you're
I
about to
ever
talk
thought he
about
would.
one bad
Nope,
game he had
I'm
with the
not.
Niners.
I'm not at all. At all.
Because he had a bad game.
He has way exceeded any expectations that I think anybody had. He deserves a lot of credit for that. Mike McDaniel also deserves a lot of credit for that. Mike McDaniel has done wonders for that kid's psyche.
Yeah, and he's made his arm stronger because remember he didn't have one.
Well, no, because if you
wait,
watch,
Mike didn't do that?
his arm hasn't been stronger. If you've watched their games this year, he's still
It's not stronger.
He's underthrowing
It's
deep
not
balls.
stronger.
How many times has Tyreek Hill had to stop
It's
and come
not
back?
stronger.
No,
Oh my God!
not at all.
All right. Well,
but
apparently
Mike
we
McDaniel-
haven't gained any ground.
Mike
with Tua.
McDaniel has designed an offense that works to everything that Tua does well, which is be accurate and make quick decisions.
Accuracy was something you had questioned as well.
I did.
Significantly.
But he has really made big strides. And I read a really interesting, or didn't read, I watched the interview. ESPN did an interview with him, and it was really interesting to watch because Tua was really vulnerable in it. He even admitted at times last year that he would look in the mirror and do I suck? Am I not good? And as any athlete will tell you, your mental state, your level of confidence has a bigger impact on the way you perform than anything else does. And as I said preseason, I don't
This
wish
is
the
a really
kid-
long explanation.
Yeah, I don't wish the kid bad. I'm excited and happy for him that he's playing well. I'm excited for you as a Dolphins fan that you have a chance to actually do something. I do think there was a little bit of exposure as to how teams can attack the Dolphins offense from that Niners game.
There
But-
it is. There it is. I knew it was going to get brought up.
Anyway, go ahead.
All right, yeah, cool. So anyway, he was wrong, and by the end of this episode, I'm about to be wrong on several points as we are going to run back our balling on a budget and see how we did with our investments that we talked about with our own lineup and budget. Few things going on. I want to talk about products that you and I love. It's Bowman season, baby.
It is, and it's Bowman condensed. It's Topps condensed season. I feel like Topps has released probably 15 new products in the last 7 weeks. It's been a deluge of Topps products. We've had Topps Chrome, we've had Gallery, we've had Chrome Cosmic, we've had Bowman Chrome, we've
Archives, everyone's
had
favorite.
Archives. There's been a lot, and not as a baseball fan, that's not a bad thing, but it's been a lot.
Chrome is out.
Yep.
Draft is coming.
We're talking about Bowman now? Yes. Bowman Chrome out for, 2.5 weeks now?
Yep.
and draft is coming December 21st. A lot of us thought draft might not make it in this calendar year because everything got pushed back. So it's exciting to see that it is coming out. What I would tell you that means as a collector / investor, if you are sitting on Bowman Chrome stuff right now, thinking that it's going to go up in value, it is not. Sell that stuff now, because as soon as draft hits, Chrome will die. I mean, it won't die for the long term, but if you're trying to flip the hot guys fast, the Roderick Arias, the Jason Churio, Jackson Churio, if you're trying to flip those guys quick, do it now, because draft will be here in a week and a half.
It feels counterintuitive until you've held on to players for too long, and then you can't get money for it.
Yep.
All right. Let's talk about some things Fanatics is doing that I really like. And
Okay.
I'm giving Fanatics credit. I'm not in the meetings where these decisions happen. But if you recall, several weeks ago, whenever we talked about Topps Chrome and the debauchery that was these SP cards not being where they should be, and what do we do with the product now, there was a lot of frustration with it until there's still frustration with it. But recently, it was announced, as you've heard if you're a collector at all, that they are offering some rewards for collecting Judge and Goldschmidt.
Yeah.
And not bad ones either. You really capitalize off of this.
Yeah, so Topps announced a buyback for the MVPs this year. It was brilliant marketing on their part, because Chrome was lagging in sales, and they knew they were getting ready to drop a bunch of new stuff. So they just partnered with hobby shops and said, hey, here's a list of what we will pay you. And my guess is what they're doing is giving them some direct allocations in return for this stuff, which is smart for the hobby shops and for Topps. If you brought in any Topps Chrome cards of Aaron Judge or Paul Goldschmidt, they're base cards or the variations of the base cards. So inserts didn't count, nothing like that, but base cards and variations of the base cards. And it's still going on. Hobby shops are going to give you anywhere from $20 to $200 per card in-store credit at their shops. The base cards are $20. The base refractors, X-fractors, pinks, things like that aren't numbered are $40. And then the different numbered cards, the variations, it goes up to $200 in in-store credit. I hadn't bought any Topps Chrome until that came out, because I didn't like the price point that it was at, and I didn't like that they left out the SPs, and then you could only hit them in silver packs. And a lot of the hobby shops weren't giving you the silver packs. They were selling the product at a lower price and hoarding the silver packs. But as soon as Topps announced this, it coincided with one of our local big box retailers here in the Midwest called Meijer ran a buy one, get one half off sale for a week on all their sports cards. They had
which we still overpaid for a blaster.
Well, I didn't buy any blasters, but I bought megas, and it brought the megas down on average to the price point they should have been at to begin with, which is about $50, right? And so I bought 6 megas and ended up pulling a couple $100 worth of those Goldschmidt and Judge cards, and took them in and got myself a hobby box of Bowman Chrome. I always treat myself to one hobby box of Bowman Chrome, and the rest of it will be retail when it hits here in the next week. You guys all know how I feel about Bowman products in retail. It's where the smart money goes. And I got lucky. I hit a gold auto of one of the top 10 international signing class guys. And it's a guy I kind of like anyway. If you're looking for a guy you can get into breaks for a team, buy the Giants in Bowman Chrome breaks. They're pretty cheap. Ryan Reckley, shortstop, projectable frame kid, I think is going to have some hobby traction. I don't know whether he'll make the majors, but he'll have some hobby traction until at least AA is my guess. So, yeah.
So I think that it's interesting that compared to what we've seen in the past, when there's been a debacle,
A debauchery.
a debauchery. That's not cards. A debacle with product in the hobby. Usually, it's just like, well, sorry.
Yeah.
So it's a little bit refreshing to see this is an incentive that they put in place that's actually creative that's going to be fun for people to, like I saw blasters, which I hate paying overprice for retail. I'm not expecting to hit something huge every time, but I'm also not expecting to lose 80%.
It's why retail's sitting on shelves now.
Exactly. So, but when they announced this, I went and grabbed a few blasters thinking, oh, there's got to be at least one of these base cards in here. And sure enough, there was. Yep. And I only lost about 50% of what I spent on 2 blasters.
Well, and let's be honest, when it comes to buying retail product, I think most of us are okay with losing 50%.
Yes, especially if you do any kind of prospecting, you like hanging on to rookies for a couple years and seeing what happens.
But the nice thing we're seeing with this type of thing from Fanatics, and the fact that every Topps release this year, from a price standpoint, has not been insane. It's been higher than it's been in the past, but it hasn't been insane. It's really refreshing to see a company come into the space and do some new things and be aggressive and not stodgy. Like, Panini had gotten so just stodgy. There was nothing new happening.
Don't say stodgy again.
There was nothing exciting or new happening. They were drastically jumping price points and providing less value while overprinting. And that's a recipe to drive away the people that you're trying to grow the hobby to. And Fanatics, you said it earlier when we were show prepping, Fanatics is their stated goal is to bring new collectors into the hobby. And the way that you do that is you make product both accessible and exciting. And you can do that a few ways. You don't have to lower the prices to make it accessible. But what you do have to do is things like this, where you're giving people an incentive to buy the product because you're giving value to certain base cards. If you're listening to this, you remember back in the day, Madden football, they released a product within the game called Ultimate Team about 10 years ago, right? And when they first released that product, it went crazy because people loved it. And it brought all the best parts of collecting and chasing things and building and fantasy football to a video game. And the thing that made it awesome and the way they were able to drive the sales of it was there were collections within the game. And some of the hardest cards to get were not of good players. They were not of popular players. You were chasing this random silver guy who would be worth more than some of the best players in the game because you needed him to complete the collection. It created a chase element for things, and that's what I see Fanatics doing with some of this.
I'm hopeful that if this is effective, because at the end of the day, they can't lose more money as a result of this. This has to be profitable for them.
Absolutely.
So I'm hoping that, as I'm thinking about baseball, how cool would it be if in season they're like, hey, turn in the refractor of all of the competitors for the home run derby the week of the All-Star break for $50 in store credit.
Right.
Throughout the whole year, or they do a draft, a draft-based one for the NFL. If you get the top 10 picks, blah, 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 or but yeah, throwing obscure stuff in. I think that it'll do 2 things. 1, it's going to bring more people in the hobby. 2, it's going to help people that have a tendency to take a lot of losses on product but like to open it to get some of that back. And then the third thing that's going to do is give a revival to the set builders out there. And I think this is how you incentivize it for the younger generation to start building out some sets.
Well, and it also is really smart on their part because it reduces printing costs for them in the future. Because here's what they're going to do with all these things that they're doing buybacks on. They're going to end up in products like archives. They're going to end up in future silver packs because they're going to get these signed by these guys, and then they're going to go into products down the road. So it's a win-win for everybody, and it's really exciting to see a company come in and do some cool, unique, neat stuff like this.
Well, and you mentioned Bowman Chrome, so I'll just jump into this. From what we understand, this is as a result of the relationship with Fanatics and SGC, but they are doing a promo where you can send off Bowman Chrome cards for $9 to get graded.
Correct. And keep in mind, it's not Bowman Chrome cards as in any cards from any release of Bowman this year that are on Chrome stock. It's cards from 2022 Bowman Chrome. So that's a very different thing. There are Bowman Chrome inserts in Bowman baseball, but those don't count for this.
Here's what I love about this. because I try to envision how these conversations happen. And in my opinion, Fanatics is sitting there dealing with the fact that we let people down with Topps Chrome. They're thinking over, what do we do with this? And now we have to drop Bowman Chrome. And if there's still frustration with anybody, is that going to just sit on the shelves? And rather than just moving on to the next release or just raising the prices on a hobby product or retail product, they seem to be taking some ownership with it and saying, all right, how do we create more interest and excitement? And that's what the hobby needs. If you actually want more collectors, you're not talking about the sneaker flipper that has 10 grand to drop on a case or something. It's going to happen with people all over the world that can actually get into the hobby.
Right.
And so I love that they're finding creative ways to do this. They're not just making the product cheap. They're giving you an opportunity to grade it for cheap. And what do Bowman collectors want to do? Grade their prospects at a price that doesn't break the bank in case they suck.
Exactly.
So
And
I think it's a huge step in the right direction. I'm hoping it's a sign of things to come as well.
And I think it's going to, especially if they start, it'll be interesting to see what the next move is. Is it going to be a partnership like this with CSG next? Is it going to be a partnership like this with Beckett next? Are they trying to democratize the world of grading so that PSA doesn't have the stranglehold that it does now? And I think that leads to a different discussion. We're already seeing it to an extent. I think we are about to see a massive price war in the grading world. I think that we are going to, and I never thought this would be the case. I've said it on this show that I didn't think we would ever see a day where PSA would grade a card for less than $50. If you are a PSA member right now, you can send bulk for $15 a card.
Hey, with everything that's coming up for me here at the end of this, I would like to make this your fourth mistake.
Yeah. Well,
okay.
No. I think everybody in this industry was mistaken on that front.
Yeah.
Like, from a business standpoint, that's what everything was pointing to.
Which it meant that the only way to address this massive backlog was to just charge a ridiculous amount until people quit.
Yeah. Yeah. And they've, so the PSA's at $15 a card. SGC's running this Bowman special at $9 a card. Their standard rate right now, I think, is down to 18, but with PSA at 15 for members, I think that SGC, who has fallen to third in volume because CSG has taken over heavily on that side of things. Like, CSG is 4 or 5 months in a row now, second highest volume grader of cards by a order of magnitude. It's like double what SGC is doing. And BGS has fallen to a distant fourth. But we're going to start seeing these price wars. BGS is already running a really heavy special through, I think, the end of February. It's like 20 or 25% off. So they're down to, with subgrades, like $20 a card. You can do oversized stuff there for like $26 a card. I'm getting ready to send in a bunch of Sportscaster Pele stuff that I have we were talking about earlier. You can, I think, count on grading getting back to an interesting spot. What's weird about it is that unless resale value starts to catch up, it's going to be tough for anybody to beat PSA if they decide to say, hey, $9 a card.
Yep.
It's going to be tough to beat that unless people start
and
being willing to pay for it.
They could do 9 on a huge group sub minimum, and people would be like, oh, that's a no-brainer.
Well, yeah, because right now, at best, SGC, CGS, BGS 10s still outsell PSA 10s, but a BGS 9.5 sells for less than a CSG or an SGC 10.
Which is wild.
And at best, at shows, what I'm seeing at shows is SGC, CSG are selling for anywhere from 60 to 70% of a PSA 10, depending on the player and the rarity. I mean, when you start getting into really short printed stuff like of 5s, of 3 type stuff, the slab doesn't matter that much because where are you going to get another one? But yeah.
You mentioned card shows, so those of you around Central Ohio may have run into Gary. He's been doing a lot of card shows.
Yep, I'll be at Xenia tomorrow.
Is the hobby alive and well in the card shows?
It is. If all you do in this hobby is look at stuff on Facebook and Instagram and are hearing voices online, there's a lot of woe is me, the hobby is dying, prices are falling through the floor, blah, all this stuff.
It used to be fun to buy cards on Facebook.
Yeah, it's not anymore. I will tell you, my experience at shows says the exact opposite. What is dying in this hobby is the bubble of drastically overpaying for weird stuff that doesn't make sense.
Yep.
You came to a show a few weeks ago and sat at my table for about half of the show for 2.5, 3 hours. At any point, and this was a small show. It's like a 30-table show in a little room at a VFW on the south end of Columbus. At any point during the time you were there less than 4 or 5 people at my table?
Maybe, but there were always at least a couple.
Yeah, and nobody came to my table and didn't spend money if they looked through any of my stuff. But they're buying $1 to $20 cards. They're not buying $800 cards.
Yep.
The market is shifting. It's not dying. The people who think it's dying are the ones who bought at the top of the bubble, and now they're taking massive losses. Those of us that have been around for a long time, we know what bubbles look like. During that whole bubble, the reason that I haven't had really any issues at all from a profitability standpoint within my business, the card business, has been that during that bubble, I wasn't buying singles. I ripped a lot of product. And now a lot of that product that people thought was blah, 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 I get $1 or $2 for every one of those cards, and I have thousands and thousands of them.
Yeah. Well, and we're going to be, Gary's doing this a lot more. I'm getting set up for it. So in 2023, we'll be doing a lot of card shows. So if you want to come to Ohio,
we'll try to keep the old socials updated with where we're at and when. But this episode's going to get uploaded later today. So if you hear it today and you're in Central Ohio tomorrow, there's a great show.
They're always
Xenia.
hearing it today.
Next weekend.
Hold on. Let what you said sink in.
What?
If you're hearing it today.
Yeah, we're going to upload it later today.
Yeah, but if I listen to this next Tuesday,
oh, yeah, that's
today.
true. This is Friday, December the 9th. So if you're listening to this on Friday, December the 9th, on Saturday, December the 10th, there's a 190-table show in Xenia, which is a fun show. It always is a great show, but don't come if you only have an hour because you'll be overwhelmed. Like, you're going to be there all day. It's a great, fun show, though. Next weekend, I'll be back at South High here in Columbus for the Central Ohio show at the VFW. That'll be the only 2 shows I'm doing in December, but January we'll pick back up, and probably 3 weekends a month I'll be out somewhere.
And I am wading into this. This is never something that I've really done before. I've done all of my stuff online or in person, like Marketplace, Craigslist, that kind of stuff.
Yep.
So I think I'm going to start out just testing the theory of what you have, where I'm going to make sure that I have really solid $1, $2, and maybe a Prices Mark box that's lower end, maybe up to like $20-$30 on the high end, and that's all I'm going to mess with. Get a little bit of that cash roll and see what people respond to. But if people are digging through your dollar box not doing anything, you have 25-cent cards.
That's exactly right.
And even if your eBay comps say $2 or $3, it's worth what people are paying for them.
Yeah.
And so if people are snatching up the box and you have a line of people digging through the same monster box, that's a good sign.
Yes.
That there's value there. So, and I watched you move. I mean, just in a few hours I was there, several $100s worth of $1 and $2 cards.
Yeah.
Did he take a 50% loss on a lot of those off of eBay comps? Absolutely. Did he take a 50% loss overall when you realize, no, it was,
I made them
really
for
good.
a dime or 20 cents a piece. Yeah.
So, it's interesting. I think you'll see more people wanting more of that face-to-face interaction. I don't want it to be stressful to collect cards, and I feel like that's what's happening in social media with it. I feel like that's kind of I'm too old for Whatnot. I finally have just kind of come to that realization. Like, I've enjoyed watching it, but I really don't have any interest in jumping into a $700 break of of 10 different products, and I only like 3 of them. That's not for me. I guess I like the singles auction. Speaking of singles, let's talk a little bit about what's going on with wax prices versus what's going on with singles. Finally, on the hobby end, we're starting to see some prices come down on hobby products. The first one you have listed here is Absolute football, and 2021, a hobby box cost $800, which is asinine.
Yeah. 3 years ago, it was a $150 hobby box.
In 1 year, the prices have been slashed.
Almost 50%.
A blue light special.
Yeah.
Remember that Kmart? Was it Kmart?
Yeah,
Yeah.
Kmart was the blue light special.
$450 this year for a hobby box of 2022. Do I love Absolute? No. Do I like their RPAs? Yes. Do I like their patches? Yes. Do
They
I
have kabooms.
although I like
and
Kaboom?
glass.
Yes. Do I hate their base? Absolutely.
Yeah. So what's starting to happen is, and a lot of us have been talking about this for a minute now, the difference in cost and price between the price of wax and then what you can actually sell the singles for has been drastically out of whack. And I wrote a little article on this, and the way that I described it, I think it finally came into some clarity for me, the best way to describe this. Before 2019, before like midway through basketball season of 2019, the way that this hobby worked was a manufacturer had a manufacturing price point that they multiplied times X percent set margin, and that's what they sold at to a distributor, right? So they had a guaranteed margin built in. Then the distributor did the exact same thing. This is what we paid for it. We're marking it up 23%, whatever that number is. And then that's what they sold it to hobby shops for. And then hobby shops did the exact same thing. We want to mark this up and make 20% on it. And what that did was everybody in the supply chain had guaranteed profits. And then all of us collectors, we got to actually have a risk reward scenario where we would then purchase at the final price, which had been marked up a total of almost 100% by the time it got to us. And we took the risk of maybe striking out or maybe getting a good reward, right? Well, as midway through that 2019 basketball season, when people were starting to pay astronomical prices for NBA product, the manufacturer and the distributor decided they wanted all of the reward, or the vast majority of the reward, without taking any real risk, leaving us as end users to be in a position where unless you hit one of the 200 or 300 possible cards in the entire print run, you were losing money on a box. And it got to the point this year with NFL where 2021 Prism came out at $1,200 or $1,300 a box. And if you hit at the time, a Mac Jones of 99 auto, which is one of the 99 cards most sought after in the set, you didn't break even on that box. Mm-hmm. That's an untenable way for the hobby to survive. It can't survive in that scenario. So at some point, somebody at Panini or the distributors finally went, okay, we're going to murder ourselves here if we keep this up. So prices on hobby have come down some. They still need to come down another order of magnitude, which I think they will. Baseball kind of already is. Panini will just continue to have their stuff sit on shelves if they don't get back into the order of, the realm of reality as far as their pricing goes. But collectors have finally started saying, we're not buying this stuff. Breakers are having a hard time filling breaks. Mm-hmm. Breaks are taking days and weeks to fill, having to run multiple micros and minis and fatals.
Early 2020 was fun when you hopped on Facebook and you saw 10 breaks that were going to fill in the next 30 minutes, and it wasn't on some huge site. It was in a small group.
Yeah.
And you knew half of the people in there. Like, it was so much fun doing that.
Yeah.
But we've been priced out of that opportunity for it to make sense, unless you're just doing this for your own entertainment. Nothing wrong with that.
Sure.
It's like me going to the casino and playing the slots. I know how it's going to go. It's still a fun time.
I have a better chance getting my money back in the slots than in a lot of these products.
Yeah. Yeah.
If you buy a hobby box of Absolute for $450 and you don't hit a kaboom or a glass, you just lost $400.
Yeah.
you just did.
Retail, similar story, although we're starting to see some sales, some stuff moving down, but a lot of stuff sitting there.
70% price increase on everything that Panini put out.
And it's like some of the stuff in there are products that have never moved well, but then you raise the price. So, yeah, they're filling up the shelves. And
Score
the distributors,
football's $35 a blaster.
Like, how many cards in that entire product are going to be worth more than that?
There aren't cards in Prism. I was talking to Cody the other day. You guys don't know Cody. I just said
You guys
that
know
like
Cody?
You know Cody.
Hey, listeners at home.
I was talking
Sup,
to
Cody?
a friend of mine who is a breaker and also a AAA umpire. We were talking the other night about Prism basketball. I've pretty much gotten out of the basketball card world. It's too fast moving for the amount of time I have to give to it. However, one of the most sought after rookie cards from the 2021 Prism class was Josh Giddey, Oklahoma City kid, very good basketball player. A blaster of Prism is $34.99 plus tax. That's at Walmart or Target. If you're at Meijer, it's $39.99 plus tax. A Josh Giddey Silver Prism Raw, which is probably one of the better cards you can pull out of that retail product, you can buy for $20 to $23 all day long. Why in the name of God would I buy that product for $35?
Maybe you hit two of them in the same blast.
I guess. I mean, that's literally your only option to even remotely break even. So the stuff's sitting on shelves.
Yeah.
I was telling you, every big box retailer in our area within a 30-mile radius, there are 10 to 20 blasters of Select basketball just sitting on the shelf.
I'm looking at maybe Topps Chrome just because I love the product, even though the year. But now, especially with that buyback incentive,
Bowman Chrome's out.
Bowman Chrome,
Retail.
yes. Whenever you find that
I'll
one,
be crushing it.
I'm trying to think of what else I would buy. Right? Oh, you had one. They're not super easy to find, but the Topps Gallery Megas,
Yeah, so Topps Gallery
which isn't my favorite product, but it's licensed and they have some cool stuff in there.
and it's a relatively short printed product compared to everything else. There's only one configuration. There are no blasters. There are no hobby. It is just the mega box. It's $80 at most stores if you can find it. There are 2 autos in the box. It's got all the rookies.
Hey, quick, tell me what other retail product has 2 guaranteed autos in it right now?
None.
Yeah.
None. I mean, so for $80 you're getting 2 guaranteed autos. I've ripped 3 of those megas. I pulled a 1-of-1 auto. It was of a pitcher, a rookie pitcher for the Orioles. Not anybody big, but still, it was a 1-of-1 auto. It's a cool card.
That guy hits 10 strikeouts, post that baby and sell it.
Absolutely. I mean, I could probably sell it for $100 right now, but I won't just because it's cool. And the Julio Rodriguez rookies sell for $7 to $8. The Bobby Witzer, same thing. O'Neal Cruz, the same thing. There's some cool cards in there.
Mm-hmm.
It's a fun rip if your kid is getting into sports and they're sports cards and they're getting frustrated that they're not pulling any autos. I've never seen a 10-year-old kid disappointed with any auto that they pull.
Yeah.
Go find a box of Topps Gallery. They're going to get 2 of them.
Mm-hmm.
It'll make their whole day.
Yeah.
And it's a third of the price of anything else that guarantees autos.
All right, are you excited for our final segment here?
I am. You're not.
It's going to be fine. I really didn't think I was going to be this wrong. If you don't remember, in September we did a segment called Ballin' on a Budget. We gave ourselves a $1,000 budget to buy up a quarterback, running back, 3 wide receivers,
And a tight end.
and a tight end. We were going to measure where the investment was from the beginning of the season to the end. We're going to call this the end, even though there's obviously room for a couple of these to move up or down.
Playoff push.
But we will go over the percentage of gain or loss on each investment.
Yep.
So up first,
Quarterbacks? I was making sure we were on the same set.
Yeah, quarterbacks. I picked Matt Ryan because those Colts were going to win 12 to 13 games.
Boy, they've been bad. It's
They-
been brutal.
In fact, have not done that. And Matt Ryan can be found for 70% less than when I told you to consider buying him in September. That is called a bad investment.
Yeah.
Gary, on the other hand,
Not as bad as buying FPX, though.
I guess not on the other hand. It's the other hand, but it's the same result in this position.
Yep.
Jameis Winston also down 70%. Now, part of these
He hasn't played.
across the board, you're going to have just because the market has had a little bit of a downswing, but you're also going to see a consistent thing with the people I picked, which is the thing Gary picked from here on out. Next was my most expensive purchase, which was Derrick Henry. Derrick Henry has taken a 30% dive. Gary was right about the capacity and workload that he would have, and I was wrong. I liked his running back pick, and if you paid attention to what he said and bought what he told you to with Saquon Barkley, you would be up 300% on your investment
At a minimum.
in 3 months.
Yeah.
If you had $1,000 that you dropped into Saquon,
You're up to about $3,500
Yeah.
in total value there.
yeah, that's not bad. Tight end. I picked Darren Waller.
Who hasn't played but like 3 snaps this year.
Down 50%. Gary picked Travis Kelce up 50%.
Who's having the exact season I said he was going to have. 12 touchdown passes, catches at minimum, 100 receptions, 1,200 yards, and he's already there with 5 games left.
Receivers. I had scary Terry McLaurin. The risk with him was that there's just not enough buzz for it to matter. Turns out that's
right.
correct. I did not lose money on Terry, but that is us being generous and throwing out a couple outlying larger sales. He's about where he was when he started.
Yeah, $25, $30. Yeah.
Yep. Gary, I mean, I'm looking at like the freaking dream team over here with the effect as the season's going on. Justin Jefferson, and I think he's still undervalued, up 75%. The man's a freak. We all watched him jump 7 feet in the air for a one-handed catch that was contested.
That he tore out of somebody's hands.
It honestly made Odell's catch
on
look like
4th
nothing.
and 18.
Yes.
It might have been the greatest catch I've ever seen in my life.
Yeah, he's up 75%. Over to me, Tyreek the Freak. Great year he's having. He's, as we speak now, he's questionable for Sunday. He came down with some type of flu bug or something, but I'm sure he'll be in for Sunday Night Football. He's down 25%, though. So, balling on a budget. I am not balling. I am on a tighter budget. Gary's choice was Devontae Adams, who is up 50%.
Yeah.
One final one. The only positive gain I had was from the cheapest card. DJ Moore, who we had a hard time finding PSA 10, is up about 20% from where he was beginning of the season somehow.
Yeah.
If you'd have told me that was going to be my best pick, I would have laughed and said that is my worst pick of my roster. You went with Stephon Diggs, up 10%.
Yeah.
So other than quarterback, Gary slated, and I was way off.
Yeah. And I will, and you're going to yell at me when I say this, but I will caveat my quarterback pick with the dude broke 4 vertebrae in his back and hasn't played since.
Yeah, he sure did. Maybe that's what happened to Matt Ryan, too.
It's possible.
Yeah.
I don't think so, but it's possible since he's playing.
So
again.
I'm going to model something.
Okay.
Hey, I was wrong.
I said that at the beginning of the episode about myself.
Oh, you qualified it.
No, I didn't.
You said you're wrong about 2 things.
I said I want to talk about 2
You're
things.
qualifying. You're qualifying right now. Everyone hears it happening. I don't believe in absolute truth. Are you absolutely sure about that? Yes. What I'm trying to say is Miami's on their way to the playoffs.
Love is blind.
This has been our first episode back. Not too bad. I will say you got long-winded a few times in there. For those of you that were taking some naps along the way, go back and listen again. It's like a good book. Every time you read it, you get something else out of it.
Evidently, except for when you're listening to me, at which point you go to sleep.
Oh, I was just saying hypothetically. I wasn't saying it actually happened to you. But we're excited to be up and running. We will be engaging a lot with social media over this season, so keep an eye on that. Join us for a card show. What else? As much as we love or do not love Whatnot, you might see us on there in the next few months.
We'll see.
I'm still waiting on a card that I won.
Yeah, it's gotten a little weird over there. It was a cool idea. I'm just not sure that the execution has been great.
At this point, we're droning on, aren't we?
Sure.
This has been the Ball Card Show, the sports podcast.
For the Sports Collector.
Bye now.
Peace.